First name and last name and spell them both. And then, if you don't mind, I need you to speak up in the microphone right there in front of you,
Okay.
so everybody can hear you.
Okay.
Can you do that for me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And tell me your first name and last name and spell them both.
Jennifer Miller, Jennifer Miller.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Questions, General?
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you tell us where you most recently worked?
The Pint House
Where is that?
on Merchants, 815 Merchants Drive.
Is that here in Anderson County or is that another county?
It's Knox County,
Okay. How long did you work at the Pint House?
about 5 years.
While you were there, did you know someone named Sean Finnegan?
Yes.
Could you tell us about your interactions with Mr. Finnegan?
We had an overlap in our shifts. We worked together about 3 hours a few times a week. And he worked a lot. He was reliable, on time.
What was his job there?
He was the cook.
Okay. In the course of your work there, did you ever meet anyone named Rebecca Dishman?
No.
Did you know anybody or had seen anybody come in to the shop or the bar there that you knew was Jennifer Paxton?
Yes, she had come in and used the bathroom a couple of times.
You said she'd come and use the bathroom a couple of times. Is she someone who would, frequent the area? You've seen her around?
I had seen her walking up and down the street, yes.
Okay. Did you ever have any interaction with her?
Not really, no.
Okay. Was that something that was encouraged to have people come in to use your bathroom?
No.
Why is that?
If you let one, they all start wanting to. There is a big homeless population around there, and it's not a public restroom.
Yeah, I was about to ask what you meant by they, but you knew her as transient and homeless there in the
yes.
area. Did you ever have conversations with Mr. Finnegan about your personal lives?
Yes.
Could you tell us what he would tell you about his romantic involvements?
I knew that he had 2 girlfriends, Becky and Jenny.
Could you repeat those names, please?
I knew that he had 2 girlfriends named Becky and Jenny.
Okay. And what did he say about those individuals?
I can't think of anything specifically. I just know that we had talked about it, that they were both staying there with him, and I knew that his mom was sick. I think he might have told me that they were helping him take care of her, maybe.
Okay. Do you remember if this was like before or after COVID, or what time frame do you recall this being in?
Before.
Okay. Did y'all regularly talk about people he was dating, people others were dating?
Yes.
Is that normal conversation there in the bar with employees?
Yes.
So did you follow up with him about having multiple girlfriends?
I did. We kind of would joke about it, or I would. I would joke about him having 2 girlfriends.
And so did that situation stay the same?
He told me at one point that Jenny had to go.
Did you follow up on any questions about that?
No.
Okay. And about when was it that, if you recall, that he made that statement that Jenny has to go?
I don't really recall.
Okay. How would you characterize sort of the nature of the Pint House? What is the, I guess, atmosphere like?
It's a dive bar, mostly regulars. You can smoke in there. Everybody gets pretty intoxicated. I mean, it is a bar. It's open very late. Everybody kind of knows everybody type of thing.
Rowdy cheers?
Yeah. Yes.
What kind of security did you have there?
At the time, just people that we hired, just regular security guards.
Any protection available to people working the bar or kitchen staff? Anything used to get patrons' attention?
We usually just had one security guard that would walk around and stay with us until after close. They would come in late at night and stay with us until after close.
Things were getting too rowdy at the bar. Some people were getting unruly. Was there anything that employees could do to get their attention?
We would hit the bar with a baseball bat
Okay.
to make a loud noise and get their attention.
Where was that bat kept?
Behind the opening of the bar, just right behind where you could reach around and grab it.
Accessible to any employee?
Hmm.
To your knowledge, from the last shift you had, is that bat still there?
No.
When did you notice it wasn't there?
I don't know when we noticed. I'm not really sure.
Do you remember if it was before or after COVID as a marker?
Before.
Okay. Did it ever turn back up?
No.
Do you have any personal knowledge of what happened to the bat?
No.
Okay. You indicated that Mr. Finnegan was a cook.
Yes.
Not just unique to him, but any cooks. Is there some unique thing that they all have a preference for?
Their knives and utensils.
And is that something that he, like other chefs, had a preference for?
Yes.
So could you tell us about your observations of him with knives?
I know that he had his own that he brought. Is there anything more specific?
Just your knowledge of it. Was it a good knife?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, as much as I know about knives.
Was it reputation among the staff of being quality?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recognize Mr. Finnegan that you worked with here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point him out to the court? The record reflects she's identified the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Try cross-examination.
Thank you. It's not, most cooks and chefs have knives, right? You worked in restaurants for a while now,
Yes.
right? You ever seen a chef that didn't have knives?
No.
No. Have you worked in other bars?
Restaurants, not bars.
Restaurants.
Yeah.
Okay. This was probably a rowdy place then compared to some of the other places you worked.
Yes.
Late nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Open till 3, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if you work there, you might stay a little bit past 3,
Yes.
right? Because you'd have to clean up and shift drinks,
Yes.
stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And folks that work in restaurants, I worked in restaurants a long time ago. It's a late night kind of lifestyle. Would you agree?
Yes.
Maybe different than the people who work during the day, right?
Yes.
Because you're usually working when other people are eating or resting, right?
Right.
And so a lot of activity happens after midnight for folks who hang around those type of bars, and drinking and smoking and sometimes drugs are pretty common,
Yes.
right? Smoking marijuana is pretty common
Yes.
amongst restaurant employees generally, right? Your experience with Sean is that he was reliable, he was on time, he always showed up for work, he worked all the time.
Yes.
And his shift would be early afternoon till wee hours of the morning, right?
Yes. He came in at 5 p.m.
Okay, so almost a 12-hour shift sometimes, right? 10 to 12-hour shift. So
Yes.
I imagine he was sometimes there till maybe 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning sometimes.
Yes.
Okay. Christmas time, around Christmas time is a really busy time for restaurants, isn't it?
Yes.
And in fact, it's the busiest time of the year for restaurants, right?
Yes.
And so anybody that can work usually has to work in those places, right?
Yes.
So that week between Christmas and New Year's, one of the busiest weeks of the year, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so Sean probably was working the whole time, probably every day.
Probably.
And you were, y'all were probably open on Christmas,
Yes.
and you were probably open on Christmas Eve,
Yes.
and you were probably open the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
And the next day, you're open all the time, right?
Yes.
And he worked just about every day.
Yes.
And if it was the week between Christmas and New Year's, he probably was working every day.
Yes.
Objection. Probably needs to be foundation if she knows what his shift was during that week. I mean, there's.
I'll overrule. Go ahead.
Okay, because you testified that you knew what shift you worked, right?
Right.
And you know what shift you worked.
Right.
And your testimony is that week, just about everybody was probably working every day, right?
Probably.
Okay, and since he was a lone cook, he would have been working every day. Okay. That's it, thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You can step down. You're free to stay in the court. We're free to go. Who's next?
Call Lieutenant Mansfield.
Sir, if you'll step up here with me, please. If you'll raise your right hand, sir. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you. If you have a seat. If you state both your first name and last name and spell them both.
My name is Robert Mansfield, ROBERT,
Thanks, sir. If you'll be sure and speak in the microphone, that'll help everybody hear. So questions, General?
Mr. Mansfield, where are you employed?
Anderson County Sheriff's Department.
In what capacity?
I'm the patrol lieutenant,
And how long have you been a patrol lieutenant with Anderson County?
creeping up on 8 years now.
Okay. And so obviously you were the patrol lieutenant back in 2019,
Yes, sir.
2020,
Yes, sir.
during COVID?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And with regard to that specifically, were you on duty August the 5th of 2020
Yes, sir, I was.
as a patrol lieutenant
Yes, sir.
in a full marked patrol car and full uniform like you are today?
No, sir, my patrol car wasn't marked.
Okay. So as a lieutenant, you ride in an unmarked car?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you receive a call for service that day that brought you here to the Jolly building?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. What was the nature of the call? First off, how did you get the call, and what was the nature of the call that brought you to Jolly building?
I was contacted via radio about a young lady who had shown up to our office building, the parking lot of our office building, to report a series of crimes. And the officer who she was speaking with felt that the crimes were serious enough to warrant a supervisor to respond.
Okay, and that would be you, the
Yes, sir.
supervisor. And did you in fact respond to the Jolly building?
Yes, sir, I did.
And who did you encounter there at the Jolly building?
When I arrived on scene, I met with a Miss Rebecca Dishman.
And what did you do next as a result of your meeting there at the Jolly building with Miss Dishman?
I approached Miss Dishman and asked her if I introduced myself and asked her how I could help.
Okay. And did you discuss anything with her at that point, or did you transport her somewhere else?
Miss Dishman started to tell me the story about how.
What do you say?
To the effect on the listener, Judge, that she's going to tell him about a crime that occurred in a different jurisdiction.
I'll sustain the objection. You can tell me what he did.
Based on what she said to you, did you respond in a certain way, based on what she said to you there at the Jolly building?
Yes, sir. Based on her statements to me, I offered to transport her in my vehicle to Oak Ridge Police Department
Okay.
to report these incidents.
All right, and did you do any radio traffic, or did you tell anybody that that's what you were doing, or warn anybody at the Oak Ridge Police Department?
Yes, sir, I did. I contacted our dispatch via radio, let them know I'd be providing a courtesy ride for Miss Dishman. And then I got on my telephone and contacted Oak Ridge, asking to speak to the on-duty supervisor.
Okay. And did you in fact do that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, and did you in fact transport Miss Dishman to the Oak Ridge Police Department as you're testifying to? Did you actually bring her there?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. How long of a ride is that?
At that time of day, it couldn't have taken more than 20 minutes.
Okay. Did Miss Dishman and you discuss what the nature of the complaint was?
Yes, sir. I didn't question Miss Dishman specifically about any incidents. I simply asked if she was okay, if she needed any sort of assistance, medical assistance, anything like that, if she was injured. Miss Dishman did continually talk to me, unprompted, but telling me about her experiences.
Okay. Without telling us what she said, she did tell you the nature of the reason why you're bringing her to the Oak Ridge Police Department?
Yes, sir, she
Okay.
did.
And who did you deliver to her to at the Oak Ridge Police Department?
The exact name of the officer, there were several officers on scene. The exact names I actually don't recall. I simply delivered her to the scene, and that pretty much ended my involvement in the incident.
Okay, and did you have an opportunity to observe her demeanor? What was she like? Tell the jury.
At the time I made contact with her, she was very solemn, very serious. She seemed to be rational. She wasn't speaking in a hurried manner. She was really anxious to tell me her story, tell me her experiences.
Okay, and once you got her to the Oak Ridge PD, did you stick around, or were you asked to stick around?
I did stay around just in case I was needed for anything else.
Okay, and what was it that you thought you might be needed for?
If after they interviewed Miss Dishman, they wanted to ask me if her story was different somehow, I could provide that information.
And did you in fact conference with other officers without saying what they said? Did you do that after Ms. Dishman arrived and was questioned at the PD?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Questions?
When you met with Ms. Disherman, she was calm and collected and wanted to tell you her story,
Yes, sir.
and she was rational,
Seemed to be.
and she was presenting as a victim,
Yes, sir.
and you all treated her as a victim like you're supposed to when someone comes in and treats and presents as a victim.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And so you took her to be interviewed by detectives based on the fact that she presented herself as a victim.
Yes, sir.
And without you asking questions, she was continuously trying to tell you what happened to her.
As soon as I established that this wasn't going to be investigated by our agency, but Oak Ridge, yes, sir, I didn't ask any pointed questions about the incident. I simply asked about her well-being.
Okay, but she wanted to tell you about it.
Yes, sir. She wanted to speak.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Any redirect?
He just asked you if that she presented herself as a victim. Did she ever say that she was a victim, or was she telling you what happened?
She never described herself to me as a victim. She simply was telling me about crimes she knew the details about. I said she did present as a victim. She also could have been presenting as a witness. I wasn't clear at the time.
Okay.
Any recross?
Right. At the time, you didn't consider her a suspect.
No, sir.
And when she came in, she basically said she told you she was fearful or something and presented as a victim.
That's the atmosphere that was present at the scene.
Okay. Thank you.
Any recross? Redirect. Thanks, sir. Step down. Please stay in the court. We're free to go. Who's next?
Roy Hines?
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir, if you'll step up here next to me, please. And counsel, if any of these witnesses have photographs you want to introduce, that we may have to have a jury out here before we do those photographs.
Not yet, Judge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, if you'll step up here, please. If you'll raise your right hand for me, please, sir. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. If you have a seat.
Thank you.
If you can state your first name and last name and spell them both, please.
Yes, first name is Roy, R-O-Y. Last name is Hines, H-E-I-N-Z.
And if you'll be sure and speak up in the microphone, everybody can hear you. All right?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Questions, General?
Mr. Hines, where are you employed?
I'm employed with the City of Oak Ridge Police Department,
And how long have you been employed with the City of Oak Ridge?
approximately 16 years.
In what capacity?
I currently serve as lieutenant over the Criminal Investigations Division.
Okay, and is that a separate division from your patrol division of the Oak Ridge PD?
It is.
Okay.
There's patrol and there's CID.
And how long have you been lieutenant over CID?
Approximately, let's say 5 years.
Okay, just briefly, if you could describe what kinds of things do you investigate in CID?
Certainly. The Oak Ridge Police Department, we investigate everything from minor property crimes all the way up to major crimes, crimes against individuals, crimes against government facilities, etc. We investigate everything. We don't have separate divisions, say for robbery or burglary, etc. Our department, we just have a single criminal investigations division that handles everything.
And you're the supervisor over that?
I am.
unit. Do you have another supervisor junior to you, or a sergeant, or?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Our hierarchy is lieutenant over criminal investigations and then a sergeant over criminal investigations.
And then the actual detectives that
That is correct.
Run the CID, okay. And with regard to you being on duty for assignment, were you on duty on August the 5th of 2020?
I was already off duty at that time, but had been called back. Basically, with investigations, we're on call 24 hours a day.
So you're never off duty?
That is correct.
Using that word is not appropriate with you,
That
right?
would be appropriate.
Okay. So on August 5th of 2020, were you called in? What was the nature of the call? Were you called in on August 5th of 2020 to come back to the building to conduct an investigation?
Yes, I was called back in.
And what was the nature of the investigation that as you understood it?
I was advised that it was an evolving situation, that there was an allegation that a female had been abducted, beaten, raped, tortured, murdered, and her remains were being held within a residence within the city of Oak Ridge.
Had you, at this point, when you responded back to the building, had your agency been in the house?
No, they had not.
Where the suspected activity was going to be?
They had not been in the house.
What is it that you were required to do as a police officer before you go in somebody's house?
We would be required to obtain a search warrant.
Okay. And so when you responded back to the building, who, as far as the components of the investigation as it was unfolding as you knew it, was there anybody at the building when you arrived there that was part of the investigation in terms of witnesses?
In terms of witnesses, at 318, that address?
No, back at the police department.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your first response in this case was to respond to the police department?
Correct.
Over on Tulane?
Correct.
Okay. And when you respond to Tulane, has anybody been made available to the Oak Ridge Police Department in terms of witnesses of what's going on over on Fairview?
Yes, there were Officer Jerry Parker, Officer Andre Thompson, and then as related to me, there was an individual by the name of Rebecca Dishman who wanted to come forward with information.
Okay, so Dishman had already arrived when you arrived?
She was already there.
Okay. And what is the protocol? What were you guys going to do once this information obviously is developing? What are you going to do with Ms. Dishman?
Would like the opportunity to interview her.
Okay. And did you in fact do that?
Yes, I did.
Tell the members of the jury, when you're interviewing Rebecca Dishman, what is the purpose of what kind of information you're getting from this interview?
Certainly. First, we would like to make sure that what we're obtaining is in fact factual. then we would like to start asking questions to build on facts, to secure facts, so that we could establish probable cause in order to get a search warrant to enter into that house. We'd also like to discuss victimology, where we get to know all the involved parties, specifically the individual who was reported missing and whose remains may have been in the home.
So a lot of moving parts, is that fair to
A
say?
lot, yes, sir.
And so the role that you played, obviously, when you got there to the police department, had anybody started the process of getting information from Dishman at that point when you arrived?
They had.
Okay. And who was that?
That was Officer Jerry Parker.
Okay. And was he assisted with by anybody?
He had a recruit at the time, Andre Thompson.
Okay. But at some point, though, you as lieutenant over CID, do you also personally go and try and get information with regard to that, the issue of getting a search warrant?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And where does that all happen?
This all happened in the interview room at the Oak Ridge Police Department.
And when Miss Dishman was brought there to the interview room, is that taped?
It is, audio and video.
And so when you arrive and do you in fact talk to Miss Dishman?
Well, I talked to Officer Parker first. After confirming that Ms. Dishman had been advised of her Miranda rights, then we entered in, myself and then Sergeant Moore entered into the room to begin conversation with Ms. Dishman.
Okay. And do you converse with her?
I did.
And does she tell you facts without telling us what she said? Does she tell you facts that you used to put together a search warrant?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And the bulk of that interview lasted how long?
Say between 35 and 40 minutes.
Okay. And that's on the clock on the tape?
Yes.
Okay. So with regard to your goals for what she's giving in that interview, your goals were to establish what you previously testified to, and did you in fact do that, obtain a search warrant?
Yes, we did
Okay.
obtain a search warrant ultimately.
How detailed were you getting in your questioning with her about specifics as opposed to things that wouldn't be necessary for your search warrant?
Some level of detail is required. There were questions that were asked as it related to things that would be of evidentiary value in the scene to give us a better understanding of the crime scene and what we were going into. Also, again, victimology, wanting to know more about the unidentified individual. What were some distinguishing features, scars, marks, tattoos, etc.? So those were all questions, very specific questions that were asked in order to further investigate, give us a better understanding.
Okay. So enough detail to know what you're looking for when you get there?
That is correct.
Okay. And do you know when that actually occurred and who the search warrant was actually issued to in your chain of command?
Yes, then Sergeant, he's been promoted, but then Sergeant Moore, he was the one who actually authored and received the search warrant.
Okay. And was he a sergeant in the CID at that time?
He was.
Okay.
Yes.
In your command, in your chain of command?
Yes, sir.
Someone who reported to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know when that search warrant was issued?
It would have been the wee hours, excuse me, the morning of August 6th, as we continued the investigation and went past midnight.
Okay. And at this point, obviously, the Oak Ridge Police Department, if you obtain a search warrant, you're going to go into a residence at this point. Do you have to take any special precautions when you're going to do that?
Because of the nature of this situation, the Oak Ridge Police Department SWAT team was activated for the safety of everyone involved.
Okay. Lieutenant Hines, do you participated in the execution of that search warrant?
I did.
Where was the residence?
I'm sorry?
At what address was the residence?
318 East Fairview.
And
Oak
whose
Ridge.
residence was that?
It was a residence of Mr. Sean Finnegan.
And what were you looking for?
Evidence is related to the search warrant as detailed in the search warrant, and those evidentiary pieces that were discovered during my conversation with Ms. Dishman.
And what part of that team did you play? You said that the SWAT team was employed to execute that search warrant. Do you play a role in that as well?
I did. In that case, I simply just drove the armored response vehicle to deploy the team. I pulled up to a point where the team exited the vehicle and then entered into the home.
Okay, so you never entered the home?
Not at that part.
At the initial entry?
Correct.
Did you enter the home after you found what you were looking for?
I did. I transitioned from my role on the SWAT team to my role back to CID, and then I entered into the home.
Just turning your attention back to you said roughly 35 to 40 minutes you spent with Ms. Dishman. So what was her demeanor like, her affect, her persona? Describe her if you would, please.
She was calm, open to conversation in her body language and her words, but I noted that she was generally emotionally flat in her response.
Thank you.
Cross-examination?
And so the investigation initiated by Ms. Dishman coming in and reporting these things.
Yes.
Okay. And then you were called in to interview because you're the investigator, basically, right?
Basically.
And so when you came in with the facts that were given to you, and these are pretty outrageous kind of claims when she first comes in, so I'm sure there were efforts to make sure that this was a legitimate claim, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And the point of an interview, when you're interviewing someone, because I would think at that point you're starting to think that, well, maybe she knows a little bit of something, and you're starting to dig, right?
Yes, sir.
And the goal of an interrogation like that is to get as much detail as you possibly can, right?
In this case, it was detail regarding establishing probable cause for a search warrant to support the allegations that were being made, to support or refute the allegations that were being made.
Okay. But you wouldn't want her to get out of there without getting all the information you possibly could, because she could lawyer up and you may never talk to her again, right?
Could you say that again?
Yeah, that when you're interviewing someone, you don't assume you're going to get a second bite at the apple. Like when you're interviewing someone involved in a criminal activity, you generally try to get everything you can in one interview because you never know if you're going to be able to talk to them again. Is that right?
I would not agree with that.
Okay.
I would not agree with that.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
I was just going to say that the focus at that point was to determine if we in fact had a crime. We can attempt to come back to the interview of the individual and get more detail at that time, but the most important part was the preservation of evidence, the recovery of the deceased, and just determining whether it was in fact a legitimate allegation or not.
Okay. And because at that point she was not being treated as a suspect.
She was Mirandized,
right?
But other than that, no.
Okay,
we let her talk.
And she spoke freely.
She did.
And you guys spoke for a little while, and I think she had spoken for an hour or two maybe with the officers before you got there, or a little while.
She had spoke for a little while.
Okay. And you said her affect was just kind of flat, right?
Yes.
Calm.
Correct.
Not really hyper emotional or anything like that during the interview.
Not at all.
Okay. And she was talking about fairly disgusting things. Some of the stuff we're talking about, a body in a freezer and those sort of things, right?
There were things that said that were in fact disturbing, yes.
But she was flat through the whole thing.
She was.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. One second. I think that's it.
Can you read it, Randy?
No, Your Honor.
Thanks, sir. You step down. Please stand in the court before you go.
Thank you.
Who's next?
State calls Larry Dowdell.
Okay, thank you. Sir, if you'll step up here next to me, please. You raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. If you have a seat there, if you'll tell me your first name and last name and spell them both, please, sir.
I'm Larry Dowdell. It's Larry, last name Dowdell.
Thank you. If you'll be sure and speak in the microphone so everybody can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Questions, General?
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you tell me what agency you work for?
I work for the Oak Ridge Police Department.
How long have you been with ORPD?
6 years.
What's your current sort of title or rank there?
Patrol officer.
And could you explain to the jury what your duties are as a patrol officer?
Just make sure that the community is safe to answer calls for service.
Were you on duty in that capacity as a patrol officer on August 5th of 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you describe the events of that day that brought you into court today?
Yes, I responded to 302 Florida Avenue for a disturbance call with Mr. Peacock and allegedly Mr. Finnegan over there.
Could you describe the nature of that call?
Mr. Finnegan had approached Peacock and confronted him about his wife, Mahogany, taking her to a shelter.
So you get dispatched. That's
Yes, ma'am.
the nature of the call.
Yes, ma'am.
And you arrive at Florida Avenue, you said?
Yes, ma'am, 302.
All right. What happens when you arrive at 302 Florida?
So I park my patrol vehicle and I turn on our camera system. I park on the on-street parking, and then I approach 302 where I spoke with Mr. Pico.
Could you describe your observations about this scene when you arrive?
So Mr. Finnegan was on the side of the street, and as I approached Mr. Peacock, I had Mr. Finnegan stay over there so I could address him after I talked to the complainant.
Could you describe, first of all, Mr. Pico's demeanor?
Mr. Pico, he was calm. He explained to me the whole situation, and then after that, I spoke with Mr. Finnegan.
And how would you describe Mr. Finnegan's demeanor?
He was calm. He was non-confrontational, and he spoke to me with respect and everything.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you have your patrol car video.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you describe the positioning of the cameras in your patrol car?
So the way our camera system is, it's we have one that's pointed in the dash, looking out the windshield, and then one pointing towards the prisoner cage. So we don't have any body-worn cameras, but we do have audio.
Okay, so no body-worn cameras.
No, ma'am.
But you have audio. Is that like a lapel mic or something?
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you have on. So in this case, have you reviewed what was captured on your audio-visual system?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the interaction visually caught between you and Mr. Pico and Mr. Finnegan?
No, ma'am.
Was the audio captured?
Yes.
Have you reviewed that audio?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did it accurately reflect, to the extent that audiovisual equipment can,
Yes, ma'am.
the encounter?
Yes.
So in your conversations with Mr. Finnegan, you described him as calm. What was his characterization of what was happening?
So he was obviously upset because his girlfriend was being transported to a shelter, and just didn't want everybody in his business, from what he stated. And that was it on the whole disturbance portion.
Did you inquire at any point, based on information you had received, about anything unusual that might be in his house?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us about that, please?
Yes, so Mr. Peacock had made a statement that there may be a body inside the residence in a freezer. And then when I asked Mr. Finnegan, he said, there ain't no body, and that's bullshit.
Okay. Your Honor, please, state ask permission to play the video at this point, or the audio portion of the video.
The defense has heard this before? Yes. Okay, go ahead.
some others. And they told her that they would be sure some courthouse or jail, police station on the Cleveland County. This is all This is my wife going to do it.
Is that Mr. Pico's voice that we hear at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks. Continue, please.
My wife took that dad to this place. Well, they're not here. No, they're not here. They're on their way to Anderson County home now. Police force wants to talk to her. So, what's this thing about a body in a freezer? Yeah. Yeah, this our guy? Yeah. Just like one bit. I guess. Hey, you can call anybody. I will tell you one time. Nothing to do with
Can you pause just a second? Is what's going on here? Is this interaction with both of the individuals?
Yes.
Okay. Please continue.
Have no idea. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm from Chicago. You don't talk to your damn neighbors. You don't get fucking involved with people. Motherfuckers murder your whole damn family. And kill the cops that come to investigate. I don't give a fuck about it. Okay? You know? Alright. Alright, you gonna try that on that? Being drawn into it. Not my business. Probably. You'd rather stay out of it. I would rather stay out of it. I'm here about fucking involved in it in the first fucking place. What's the contact phone? This is 537-1053. He's telling me he's going to make my life miserable. I don't take money for that. Like I said, I ain't broke. We dealt with shit way too much. I live in a place where cops didn't show up until after the ambulance was bodied up.
This still interaction with Mr. Pico? This still interaction with Mr. Pico?
Yes, Mr. Pico.
Okay.
My wife's a fucking bleeding heart and want to help everybody. Alright? The opposite, I think that's why we got married. Love her to death, she keeps me straight. And she took off with his girlfriend to take her to a shelter. And now he's telling me that he's going to make my life miserable. And we lost our friendship. I left it at that. I told him I didn't want to get involved. I told him I had nothing to fucking do with this shit. And he said, I can understand he's mad and going off. This too. I don't want nothing to fucking do with it. I got kids. I come down here to stay away from that shit. What's your, what is your last name again? Mahogany? Yeah, she's just, we have got to change together. Name, H-E-C-K. You know, like 5 o'clock, like an hour. What time is it now? 6:52, so I'd say 5:30. Yeah. 5:30. He come home, knocked on the door, asked what was going on, where he took that. I told him he didn't take her anywhere, he was here. Mahogany took her off to the shelter. And then he proceeded to yell and scream at me, and I don't want to revert to what I used to be. To get your no, Becca. Yeah, I don't know her last name. Yeah, I guess that's because she talks to her 20 of the... What's the with the WIP? I don't know. To cover this area. I don't know why they told her to go up there. I bet she pulled up there. And they were waiting for her. She said she'd be there at 6. Yeah, I don't even know. She said it. Alright, so pretty much you don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about what's going on there. I don't want threats coming from him towards me. I have kids here. I've never had an issue with this man till today.
Just because it has a bit of a background noise there. Was that you saying, let's go around the corner and talk about this?
Yes,
Who are you talking to?
Mr. Finnegan.
Okay, so this will start your interaction directly with Mr. Finnegan?
Yes, ma'am.
Not them talking over
Yes,
each other?
ma'am.
Okay.
Well, you guys don't need anybody? Always over my house every fucking day. So I got to a boyfriend, they shouldn't have got involved in my life. You know what I'm saying? You don't get involved in people's life. Who was the other female that was out here when I passed you? Brother, my neighbor. I knew you were coming. I seen you pull around. I'm just upset that they got involved in my life. Sure. What? Go back and listen. Yeah, she's not all there. She's mentally how to take care of her.
Could you describe to us what Mr. Finnegan said in regard to Ms. Dishman?
That she wasn't all there.
Okay.
Not all there. I didn't mean to call it a scene, but I get it. How does it feel if you came home and your lady left and they got to be naked and called me? You're not wrong. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking. Said she was taking it for something, but I think that's bullshit. She's got it for herself. Over here to this side? Yeah. And how did you, I returned it, I knocked on the door, I said, you know what's going on there. Yeah.
I'll go back just a second. When you're discussing with him about whether they took her to a shelter, how does he respond to that? What does he say that he thinks that is?
He thinks that there's something else going on, and that's bullshit.
Thank
You would tell me at first, I said, "Oh, what the fuck is going on? Where did the girl take my girl?" We got down, and he was like, "Well, you know, she said she's on the go, so my husband took her to a shelter." I said, "You know, listen, you shouldn't have fucking got involved in my life, man. Alright? I said, you should have stayed the fuck out of it. You should have called me and fucking had me to deal with it, not you." And I was this. I said, "Come on, I'll fight you in the yard. We got kind of copy, I got kind of copy, but we both went our separate ways." No, quite the same thing. All right, so let's speak about a body. There ain't no body. That's all bullshit. That's all bullshit.
Can we pause that? Could you describe what just happened?
Yes, when I asked Mr. Finnegan about the body in the freezer, he said, there ain't no body. That's bullshit.
Can you tell us what's just happened?
So after discussing with Mr. Finnegan and Mr. Pico, just gave him advice to keep their distance, and myself and my backup officer about our way.
Did you go in the house?
No, ma'am.
Did you ask to go in the house?
No, ma'am.
Did you call back to dispatch and say you cleared the neighbor dispute and went to your next call?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would move this in as the next state's numbered exhibit. I believe that's 16.
Yes, ma'am, I think that's correct.
And do you see Mr. Finnegan that you spoke with that day in the court today?
I do.
Could you point him out to us? Tell us what he's wearing.
Right there, he's wearing a blue shirt and some gray slacks.
May the record reflect he's identifying the defendant.
He has.
I pass this witness, Judge.
Cross-examination, please.
Briefly, Judge. Whenever you got to the scene and you were talking to Mr. Pico there, I didn't hear him tell you that Mr. Finnegan threatened to kill him. He didn't say that, did he?
Did Mr. Finnegan say that?
No. Did Mr. Pico tell you that Mr. Finnegan threatened to kill him?
No, he did not
He
tell
did
me
not.
that.
He said that his friendship was over, right?
Yes.
So if Mr. Pico testified that he threatened to kill him, he didn't tell you that? He didn't tell you that?
No.
Okay. And you responded to the call after, as soon as it came in, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's all.
Very briefly, Judge.
Sure.
But Mr. Pico did say he's threatening me. I've got kids over here, and he's making these threats.
Right, but he did not elaborate.
He didn't elaborate on what that threat was.
Right.
And Mr. Finnegan told you that he was going to fight Mr. Pico.
Yes.
Okay.
And then recross.
Noted.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Step down. Free stand in the court, free to go. Thank you. Who's next?
This will be Brian Uke, Your Honor.
Okay. Sir, if you'll step up here next to me, please. If you'll raise your right hand, please, sir. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If you have a seat right there, if you'll state your full name, first name and last name, spell them both for me.
Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Yook, Y-O-O-K.
And if you'll be sure to speak up to the microphone so everybody can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Questions, General?
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please state what agency you work for, what your job duties are?
Yes, I am employed by the Oak Ridge Police Department. I'm currently a sergeant over our drug unit. I'm also further assigned as the director of the 7th Judicial Crime Task Force.
Could you describe what the Crime Task Force is?
Yeah, we're a task force made up of members from all the law enforcement agencies within Anderson County, and we investigate drug and violent crimes.
As part of that, do you get, are you on call?
Yes.
What kind of calls do you respond to?
Typically, your larger scale drug investigations, violent crimes. We also do a lot of assistance to the other agencies if they have a major incident or major investigation. We'll assist them with that investigation.
And what time do those kind of calls come in?
Anytime.
Anytime. So were you on call and working in that capacity back in August of 2020?
Yes, at that time I was the deputy director of the task force.
So as the deputy director of the task force, were you notified of an incident on August 5th, 2020?
Yes.
Could you describe the nature of the notification you received?
I received a phone call from Simon Byrne, who was the director of the task force at the time, relaying information about a possible homicide, and that the report had come through the sheriff's department, but the person reporting it was then being transferred to the Oak Ridge Police Department.
And what were you asked to do in terms of worker assistance on this case?
So my reaction to the information I received was to contact several other task force members and ask them to go to the area of 318 East Fairview Road in Oak Ridge to set up surveillance. I also contacted Lieutenant Pitts at the Oak Ridge Police Department, who was the lieutenant over the patrol shift at that time, explained the situation to him, asked if he could have a marked patrol car move into the area and be visible in front of that residence until myself and my other team members were on scene. And I also contacted Sergeant Moore, who was a sergeant over Oak Ridge's Criminal Investigations Division at the time, to relay the information to him, knowing that it would be a case that the Criminal Investigations Division would investigate.
So in terms of you having a marked unit there, is that in contrast to the type of vehicles that your squad would be in the CTF?
Yes, we, the majority of the time we operate in a covert manner, so we drive regular everyday vehicles that looking at them you can't tell that they're law enforcement vehicles. We typically dress in plain clothes, jeans and a t-shirt. A lot of our job is not what you would call undercover, but being covert. It's just blending in. You don't draw attention to yourself. And in that capacity, we're able to do things like surveillance. We can sit and watch houses a lot of times without being noticed.
So is that what you did on that night?
Yes.
Can you tell us about the time that you had your group assembled and took over sort of that surveillance from the marked patrol unit?
Sure. This all started approximately 7:30 or so that evening. That's not the exact time, but sometime in that time frame. There again, our group, we're used to being called out and can get out there pretty quickly. So I believe I got on scene within approximately 30 minutes or so, give or take. And the rest of the members of our team shortly thereafter. We just set up in different areas to basically set up a perimeter where we could either watch the residence itself or, like I said, a perimeter. You may be on the opposite side where you can't see it, but you would be able to do things like if anybody came out that opposite side between houses, you could see that. Or you can maneuver, say, I'm in a position where I think, hey, this person may notice I'm sitting here. I may need to leave the area, and somebody that hasn't been visible move in.
So you're in communication with each other, keeping eyes out from various distances.
Correct.
Is that fair to say? Did you notice anything and observe and have communication about Mr. Finnegan, or at this point, the suspect's house and his whereabouts?
Yes, during the time that we were out there watching, a large part of the time he was outside of the residence. standing there smoking, kind of appeared like he was looking around, but just kind of hanging out.
Was he only there hanging out at the residence during the time period between your surveillance and the eventual execution of the search warrant?
Yes, at one point he did leave. He came out, got in his vehicle. We were able to follow him as he left. He went to a Rocky Top Market gas station there in the middle of Oak Ridge, Rutgers Avenue, Turnpike. He went in the store, made the purchase, came out, and drove back to the residence.
And he was under observation that entire time?
Yes.
So he gets back to the residence. How long approximately do you believe that surveillance continues from the CTF?
There again, I don't remember the exact times, but it was until 3 or 4 in the morning, I believe, when the search warrant was executed. But we were there on scene until that search warrant was executed, conducting surveillance.
And so that was the CTF's job, and your job there was the surveillance portion. Did you participate in the search of the home or
Yes,
activities beyond that? And it was that along with other officers, Detective Moore, Sergeant Moore, Craig, forensics, those people?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I pass this witness, Judge.
Cross-examination.
So your job in this investigation was just that surveillance part?
In the beginning, prior to the search warrant being executed, yes.
Okay. During that surveillance part, you watched him and he smoked some cigarettes and he went to the store and he came home?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Just very quickly follow up. You were only surveilling him outside of the home, correct?
Correct. There was no way to see inside of the home.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You recross. Thanks, sir. You said
Yes, sir.
that.
Thank you.
Please stand, Corporal, free to go. Who's next?
Call Marville Moore.
Sir, if you'll step up here next to me, please. Sir, if you'll raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Good to see you right there. If you'll state both your first name and last and spell them both for me, please.
My name is Alan Marville Moore. First name is Allen, A-L-L-E-N. Last name Moore, M-O-O-R-E.
And if you'll speak in the microphone so everybody can hear you, please, sir. Question, General?
Mr. Moore, where are you employed?
Oak Ridge Police Department.
In what capacity?
I'm a lieutenant right now, but at the time I was a detective sergeant.
Okay, so you're lieutenant on patrol now?
Yes, sir.
But at the time, you were a detective sergeant in what part of the organization?
Criminal Investigations Division.
Okay, and who was your immediate supervisor?
Lieutenant Roy Hines.
Who we've heard from today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And like Lieutenant Hines, you as being a detective sergeant, are you on duty or do you pretty much have to work whenever duty calls?
I pretty much work when duty calls.
Okay. And so with regard to that, were you called for service on August the 5th of 2020 for a call that had come in for service from the Anderson County Sheriff's Office transporting an individual to the Oak Ridge Police Department?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And do you recall about what time you arrived at the police department?
No, sir, not actually. I know that I got a call from my Lieutenant Hines at 8:04.
Okay. And so at some point, though, where do you go as responding to that call?
I go to the Oak Ridge Police Department.
Okay. And do you speak with people there?
Yes, I did.
Was there a member of the Anderson County Sheriff's Office there?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Did you get a chance to speak to him?
I spoke to him briefly, yes, sir, outside on the sidewalk in front of the police department.
Okay. But at some point, your investigation turns to needing information from a particular individual there at the police department?
Yes, sir.
What was her name?
Rebecca Dishman.
Okay. And where was Miss Dishman inside the police department?
She was in the interview room that's inside the police department. It's the main interview room that is used to record interviews.
That you use regularly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you in fact enter that room with another police officer, or did you go in there by yourself?
I went in there with Lieutenant Hines.
Okay. And is that standard?
Yes, sir.
And did you Mirandize the person in the room?
Yes. I advised Ms. Dishman that she was still under Miranda.
Okay. And did you discuss with Ms. Dishman the nature of her complaint?
Yes, I did.
And what was the purpose that you were in the room at that point, based on your understanding of the investigation? What kind of information were you trying to get from Ms. Dishman?
I was trying to get information on the whereabouts of a corpse, a deceased body.
Okay. And that's basically the nature of the complaint, why you were even there talking to her. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And did you have an address, a target address, or where that was supposed to be?
Yes, sir, that was 318 East Fairview Road,
And
Oak Ridge.
In city of Oak Ridge?
Yes, sir.
Is that in Anderson County, Tennessee?
Anderson County, Tennessee.
And did you? How long of an opportunity did you have to speak with Ms. Dishman?
I'd say the total was about 36 minutes.
Okay. And with regard to that, the instrument that you're trying to get to prepare, what do we call that in your investigation?
Search warrant.
Okay. Because to enter a person's house, is that an instrument that you have to have?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've prepared those in the past?
Yes, sir.
And that's what your goal was for this interview?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you get the information that you needed based on your interview with Ms. Dishman?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And when a search warrant is issued, who is it issued by?
It is issued by a judge.
Okay. And a search warrant is issued pursuant to rules and procedures and has to be issued to a particular person, right?
Yes, sir.
And who was this search warrant issued to?
Mr. Sean Finnegan.
Okay. And who was the person going to be executing that warrant?
I was the affiant on the search warrant.
Okay. So you had to swear out an affidavit and the judge gave you authorization to go search something?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And that's based on what Ms. Dishman told you?
Yes, sir.
And when you conduct a search warrant, you don't go there by yourself, right?
No, sir.
Tell the members of the jury what you did to assemble before you when you got your search warrant by a judge to the house.
At such time when it was we assembled the SWAT team to make entry on the house, just basically because of the risk and once we done that at that morning at August 6th around about 4:26 we executed that search warrant.
Okay, and you said the SWAT team. We've heard the jury's heard, I'm sure, that word before. Just tell us briefly what that is.
It's a team made up of guys that are trained in special weapons and tactics, high-risk search warrants such as violent crimes, as drug search warrants, and we execute those type of high risk.
So you're being assisted by the SWAT team. Are there other people that are going to be there helping you as well?
Yes, the rest of the CID team, which are the Criminal Investigations Division. We had at that time approximately about 3 or 4 We also had the CTF also assisting us as well.
How many approximately, just tell the jury, approximately how many people on the SWAT team were there assembling for the entry into this house?
Anywhere from 7 to 10. I did not participate with the SWAT team. Although I am a member, I was not present. I didn't hit the house with the SWAT team.
But the warrant is issued to you to do conduct the actual search. What is the function of the SWAT team before you entered the house to do the search? What are they there to do?
They are there to enter the house, secure all parties that are inside the house, and make it safe for the CID division to come in and search.
And once they make it safe, then you get to go in?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And did you mention a time? I'm sorry if you did. What time did you all got there to?
Approximately 4:26 when search warrant. 4:26.
4:26 a.m.
Yes, sir. On the next day, which would have been August 6th.
Okay, and so the SWAT team goes in. Where are you when the SWAT team actually enters to clear the residence?
I'm standing outside the residence in front of the residence.
And this is the address of the SWAT team that you're going into?
Yes, sir.
What address is that?
318 East Fairview Road.
And who is inside the residence that needs to be cleared out of the residence when you actually make entry at 426?
The defendant, Sean Finnegan, and his mother, Frances Finnegan.
What is done with Mr. Finnegan when SWAT enters?
They detained him downstairs. Him and his mother. Once the place was rendered safe, I went inside and explained the reason why we were there, and also gave him a copy of the search warrant.
Okay, when you told the jury they make it safe, what does that mean?
Make it safe is just making sure there's no other persons inside the inside the residence. They bring them downstairs, make it safe, detain those individuals, and advise that there's no more parties in there. There's no more danger to us that's coming in to search the place.
So when you enter the residence, where's the defendant, Mr. Finnegan?
Mr. Finnegan's downstairs, standing in front of the couch in the living room with his mother.
Okay. And do you have officers assigned to holding him there? Or?
Yes, sir. There was several officers there standing with him.
I'm sorry.
There were several officers standing down there with him.
Do you converse with him before you start conducting your search?
Yes, sir, I did. I advised him the reason why we were there, and I provided him a copy of the search warrant.
And so what did you tell him you were there for?
I told him I was there to look for the body, or deceased person.
Okay. And what did he say? How did he respond to that?
Actually, I asked him, I said, well, why would anybody make the accusation that there's a dead body in here? And he told me that he didn't understand why somebody would make that comment.
Had no idea what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so how do you conduct the search of the residence?
We conduct the search downstairs. We started downstairs. Well, first they went upstairs to the bedroom where the body was supposed to be at. And upstairs they did locate the upright freezer, the white one, but there was not a body inside the freezer.
Okay, so did you in fact also enter the upstairs bedroom?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you locate a freezer in the upstairs bedroom?
Yes, sir, we located it upstairs.
Describe how you, in the layout of the house, where you go to get to where you're talking about.
Okay. Once you go through the door downstairs, there's a living room, and on the back side of the living room.
To your left?
Yes.
Okay. Living room to your left?
Living room to your left as you go in. And then on the back side of the living room, it's all goes into a kitchen. And then you know, as you come through the door, there's steps that goes up to the upstairs.
Okay.
Once you go upstairs, to your right is a bathroom. Straight ahead is what was identified as Miss Finnegan's room, and then to your left you had Mr. Sean Finnegan's room and Rebecca Dishman.
So you're describing Mr. Finnegan's room is on the front of the house, and that Miss Finnegan's room is on the back of the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so eventually you make it in, when you say we are searching, how many people are assisting you in actually searching for items that you're looking for pursuant to search warrant?
Upstairs, it was me. There was Sergeant Brian Yook, and then you had Detective Kevin Craig, who's Sergeant Craig now. We were all upstairs.
Okay.
Miss Tonkin was up there as well, but she came later.
Okay. But you make it personally into the bedroom?
Yes, sir.
And are there closets in the bedroom?
Yes, sir. There's a closet at the foot of the bed, of the bed.
You've described us going up the stairs, and
Upstairs.
we take a left on the hall, and we're going in through a door.
Going through a door,
Okay.
and then you got the master bedroom.
Okay.
And
Where's the closet? Orient us to that.
the closet would be once you go in, it's going to be on the east wall.
Okay.
And the head of the bed is going to be on the west wall.
Okay.
And so their feet would be, if you were laying in the bed, your feet would be toward the closet there,
Okay.
where the upright freezer was.
Do you recall when you entered the room whether or not the closet door was open or shut?
By the time I went up there, it was open because the SWAT team had already opened the door and made it safe, making sure that there was nobody hiding in there.
A person standing
Yes.
in there, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And did you, in fact, observe the refrigerator that was in the closet?
Yes, I did. I observed it and opened it up, and there was nobody in there. There was a pizza box, or DiGiorno pizza box in.
Okay. Matter of fact, racks still in the freezer?
Yes, sir.
Or placed in the freezer? And there was a pizza?
Yes, sir.
Anything else that you recall?
I just recall the pizza.
But you have folks that take photos of those types of things
Yes, sir.
as part of this search?
Yes, sir.
And there was nothing in the freezer? Was the freezer running?
The freezer was still plugged up, running.
Okay. And what do you do next when you find that the information in your search warrant, you're looking in this freezer, that's what the warrant is telling you to do?
Yes, sir.
What do you do next?
Well, I just sat there for a minute, and because the house was just so immaculate, or it was pristine, everything was very organized. It was well kept, tidy, and I just looked around and just observed the room. And I turned around and I looked at the bed, and what was so odd to me was there was something protruding outside under the bed on the left side, and curious, so I knelt down, got beside the bed, lifted the cover up, and I seen this. It was like a gray-like cover, and then I kept looking up under, and I touched it, put my hand up under there, and I said, "Oh man, that's cold." And it was a black plastic bag, and it was cold to the touch, and which was, kind of odd. Why would somebody put something up under the bed that's real cold when you got a freezer? And touched it, and I yelled out to the rest of the team. I said, "I think I found her. Here she is."
And what'd you do next?
At that time, I got Sergeant Craig there. I relayed the information downstairs to my supervision and advised him that, I think we got the body here. At that time, we secured the place. It's a crime scene at such time. I told everybody to get back out so Sergeant Craig could come in and take photos of the house, the exterior of the house, interior of the house, and then make his way on upstairs to take photos of the room and until he had his photos, and then once he got his photos, we lifted the mattress up on the bed.
So you preserved photos while the bed is still intact?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and go ahead and tell us what you observed when the mattress is pulled up.
And at that time, we pulled up the mattress, and there she was. There was partially, there was a naked woman with plastic bags covering her lower portion.
And the bag did not cover her top portion?
No, sir.
Okay. Could you see her face?
Yes, sir. You could see her face. Her face was exposed.
Okay. And her chest area as well?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And what position was she in, if you could describe it?
It looked like she was more like sort of in a fetal position, if I could.
And were you present when Officer Craig then processed the scene, so to speak?
At that time, no. At that time, Mr. Finnegan was taken into custody, and I have given him directions to the guys to certain items that we were looking for. Those were, of course, the Fireball whiskey bucket, which was outside on the front porch, and then there was choke chain, and then there was two dog chains that I was looking for as well.
Okay. Did you find and locate those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With padlocks?
Yes, sir. I didn't personally find those myself, but yes,
People
sir.
under the supervision of
No.
your search?
Yes, sir.
And that was documented and collected by the Oak Ridge Police Department?
Yes, sir.
How was Miss Frances Finnegan behaving during the incident, if you recall?
Miss Frances was Miss Frances was beside herself. She was fussing and arguing and being very argumentative and irate. She advised when we first went in there that all of this over some weed. But yes, eventually she had to be taken away from there as well.
Do you actually take part in the confiscation of items, or do you leave that to Sergeant Craig?
I left that to Sergeant Craig.
So he does all the wrapping and taking
And collecting,
documenting?
yes, sir. And he was my evidence tech on this case.
And so it's this team that assembled to collect all of this?
Yes, sir.
As part of the investigation, you were being assisted by other members of other agencies. You've told us, the CTF and whatnot, but you were also looking for other investigative leads as well, in addition to speaking with Ms. Dishman?
Are you referencing a canvas afterwards? After
Referencing, do you make efforts to go and find out social media things and things like that, things of that nature, accounts and things like that? Did you discuss that with Ms. Dishman?
Yes, sir. That was discussed with Ms. Dishman, but which didn't really. We didn't get any extra leads off of it.
But you looked at public records to find out addresses and things of that nature?
Oh, public records.
To corroborate that Sean Finnegan even...
They're at their residence, yes, we actually...
all of that was done by your department?
Yes, sir, that was actually done.
I think you said that you felt the object, thought it was her body. Did you feel that the texture of it in terms of knowing whether or not? You said it was cold.
It was cold. I knew it was a plastic bag.
Was it solid?
It was solid. I jumped up. It caught me by surprise. I mean, I wasn't expecting to find, that body up under there in that manner. I was startled, to say the least.
And when you looked down at her body when the bed was finally removed, could you tell?
Yes, sir.
Was she intact?
She was intact, but there was her nose was missing.
That's all right. Cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
So you said you spent probably maybe 26 minutes, I think, interviewing Miss Dishman, or something like
more,
that.
36.
36. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
And you were in the room with the other officer, I think, that just testified.
Lieutenant Hines.
Right. And he mentioned to her that she was just kind of flat while she was talking to you guys. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir. There was not much emotion at all.
Okay. But she was talkative. I mean, she spoke freely and was able to answer questions. And
yes, sir. That's correct.
And she spoke clearly to you, and you could understand her.
Yes, sir.
And her actions were appropriate when she was describing these things to you, except for the fact that she just was real flat and emotionless.
Yes, sir.
Right. And you would agree with me that this investigation came to be because she came in and reported it.
Yes, sir.
And so most of the information that we have that leads to the house, whatever, came from Rebecca Dishman.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all, Judge.
Are you ready? No, Your Honor. Thanks, sir. You can step down. You're free to stay in the court. We're free to go.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're next.
Your Honor, please, it's probably a good time for a break.
Okay.
Please.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to take our afternoon break. We'll be about 20 minutes. So I appreciate y'all's concentration so far this afternoon. Everybody rise, please. Do you want to go ahead and address the photos now, or do you want to take a few-minute break?
If I could take a few minutes, then we can come back and address the photos. And also, Judge, because he is going to be introducing a number of photos in addition to those and some physical objects, it would probably be a good time before the jury comes back in for us to take a while to bring in the envelopes or boxes of items. We have the freezer, and I'm not sure where you would like for us to put that before we identify it or anything like that.
So, tell me what you want me to do. Do you want?
It's something that, for something like that, we could probably put over here. I don't know how well the jury can see things. If we just put them in that corner, over next to them. But we just want to make sure that we're appropriate and we're not doing anything that looks untoward.
So you want to go ahead and move your boxes or whatever you've got in here now?
Into this room during the break.
And then when do you want me to review the photographs?
When we get back from a brief break, that's fine with the state, if that's okay with you.
And yet, how many photographs? Aren't there just two?
Well, there are two, I think, that are contention. I believe no objection to the rest of the photos that are essentially house tour and pictures of physical objects, but the body pictures, I've removed a number of them and have two indicating the position of the body.
Under the bed?
Yes.
Okay. Can I see those two?
Yes.
It's a standard objection, Judge.
Right. And I've not looked at them.
Yes.
And we'll get some on the record after I take a look at them. So I can see y'all back in here about 15 minutes. Will that give you enough time to load everything up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 15 minutes.